Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart together again. God, I hope you're better than Central Intelligence. So Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is the sequel to the 1995 movie Jumanji, which stars Robin Williams. However, instead of a board game coming to life, a video game comes to life, and so it sucks 4 people in from the real world to this virtual world, and they become our lead cast. And so the video game playing nerd becomes The Rock, the jock becomes Kevin Hart, the stuck-up pretty popular girl becomes Jack Black, and the nerdy female becomes Karen Gillan. So we follow these 4 characters in this virtual world, and they have to beat the game in order to escape it and get back home. And so I honestly really like the idea of Jumanji becoming a video game. However, I find it a little weird that the board game actually became the video game. I just really wasn't expecting that, because walking in, I just assumed that the Jumanji video game would just be something made and not really tied to the board game. However, I guess that kind of makes sense. However, I just thought it was kind of weird how they did it. I don't know. But that could just be myself, but whatever. But honestly, I really like all the head nods that they did for video game playing people. Like, oh, you have 3 lives remaining. And then there's like strengths and weaknesses. And it was just all feeling very video game-esque. And I rather enjoyed that. And probably one of the better video game movies that we've gotten. Just because it does kind of feel like a video game movie. However, it's not really a video game that's ever been made. And overall, like, the acting in this movie is really, really good. Like, all our lead characters, they all feel like there are people playing these characters that aren't necessarily themselves. And it's just all really interesting to watch. And it's like, it's kind of where the comedy comes from, because these characters that are being played to who they're playing by, actually, they're very contradictory and don't really match up in their characters. And so it's kind of funny how that kind of works out. And honestly, Jack Black might be the standout, just because he is really probably the biggest difference between who she is to who she became. And so it's just really interesting to watch. However, I honestly really didn't care for the setup of this movie, because I was just like, I feel like you're trying a little too hard, and it's just really not working for me. I really didn't care for that part of the movie, but once I got to the video game world, it just all became really more interesting, and the characters became more interesting as well. And so, I really enjoyed the characters themselves. However, the villain, really didn't care for him, because I felt like he was rather pointless, and I'm just like, do you really even need to be in this movie? Because I don't even remember your name, and I feel like you haven't really done anything. It's just, I felt like he was just there to be there. It's just pointless. Really didn't care for that. And then there's also, like, scenes that I just, like, there's parts of the movie I was just like, I really just don't care for that, just because that wouldn't work in a video game. Like, the mechanic just really doesn't make sense. And I used to play a pretty decent amount of video games. Not so much anymore, but for example, one of the things that really bothered me is that, for example, if you played Kevin Hart's character in a single-player playthrough, you would not be able to beat the game, just because his basic ability, like his main ability, is to carry stuff. And I was just like, so you can't beat the game single player, even though that's an option. It's just, I don't know. And then there's also things that I found to be kind of predictable, just because I play a decent amount of video games. At least I used to. And so, like, so I was like, oh, they can't do this, so that means this. If they can do this, then that means this. And so I saw some things coming before probably a lot of people that don't play video games do. So, I mean, like, I don't know. There's that as well. And then it's just like the characters, I never felt like they were necessarily in danger of what was actually going to happen if they lost all 3 lives. I never feared for their lives or anything like that whenever they were in danger. It just really didn't work for me, that aspect. However, I do find this movie to have some enjoyable parts, and it's just like, my main thing is the gripes, just because those gripes took me out of the movie a little too much. But I do find the comedy to be fairly good. It's not fantastic. I felt like the comedy in this movie had a mix of good and not so great. The good was like, it made me chuckle a decent amount of times, and sometimes fairly hard. However, then there were some jokes that I felt like they were trying a little hard to, like, a little too much. They were just trying too hard, and it just really didn't work, and felt like it really didn't fit with the scene. It's just like, that's just too much. And so, It's kind of a mixed bag for me. However, I do feel like most people will probably enjoy this movie more than me because I just feel like I overthink this movie. It's just like I walked in thinking too much, I guess. I just because the gripes in the movie I really are probably fairly small to a lot of people, and it's just like, why'd you even think of that? And it's just like it's just something that bothered me. I didn't mean to. It's just like I thought too much during this movie. I mean, I guess just don't think a whole lot during this movie, and you'll probably enjoy the movie experience all the more. And so, for me, I'm debating back and forth a little bit. I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 9. It'll be worth seeing at matinee ticket price. But honestly, the more I think about this movie, the more I like it. So I could see it being bumped up to a 6 out of 9 later on. But who knows? We'll have to see. But overall, I found it to be fairly enjoyable. And I'm sure more people will enjoy it more than me. I just like I don't know. I had my problems with it. So, I mean, thank you all very much for watching this. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. And remember, no movie is a perfect 10 out of 10. God bless you all.